Maybe. Uh, Let me see. Is it recording? I don't know if it is or not. Hold on, let me look. Yes, yes, it is. Huh. All right. So, welcome, YouTubers, to Gods of Orlea, the series. Today we have a special guest. This is Lisa Martin, who plays the character of Jade Luna in my campaign. Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. So, tell me a little bit about your history with D&D. Like, how long have you been playing, and some of your favorite moments?
I remember the original box set. Yes, I'm that old. Way back where they had the little plastic miniatures that came with it. Interestingly, I don't remember playing that version. I remember playing the second edition. That was kind of where I, really kind of bit into it. Found some friends. Very smart man was the DM. He built this entire computer program. He was like like that would tell you, okay, your torch is going to burn out after this when you turn. I mean, it would tell him everything. And it was fun. And my earliest memory of that was somebody at the table. There was like three of us playing, and someone made the mistake of saying they were bored. And 5 minutes later, we were all dead. And it was like, okay, won't make that mistake again.
Now, I remember playing the very first, I guess it would be version 1. When it first came out, I remember it was the one I had was it was like a board game almost. Came in a box, and I remember playing it when I was younger. And then I played the first edition, I guess, and I never played again. I didn't really pick up until college, like when I was in my undergrad. I only touched on. I think at that point it was probably a second edition, I would think. When I was in college, I think it was second edition.
Right.
So I had one of my very first character I ever built was a wizard, and actually was a halfling wizard. And my character now is a halfling wizard, which his series is named after. It's my handle's halfling wizard. And I don't know, I just really liked the idea of a halfling wizard. So, and in this campaign, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about who Jade Luna is, where she comes from, and I'll pull the map up here in a minute so everybody can see it.
Okay.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came about creating her?
Okay. I found that most players, they gravitate towards a certain type of character. Like you would probably go more towards the wizard, sorcerer. And to me, that's a little too much math for me, and trying to keep track of all the spells and components. So I always kind of gravitated towards the ranger, and I played ranger, I played a druid, I played a ranger, druid, hunter. And when we were setting up this campaign, I thought, yeah, but I love that flavor, but I want to do something different. So I kind of started looking online, and at that point, the Lithari wasn't an official character, and I don't know if it is now or not. But I went to you and said, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking of. And together we built that character. We researched it, and then we looked at all the stats and made it well balanced, so it wasn't too strong, too weak, that it had some flavor to it. And kind of so that we came up with the basic character from there. And then the favorite part was we sat down and figured out, I had some ideas, and then I would share with you, and then you would share with me, and we'd end up with a better idea than either one of us had to start with. But we created where she came from on the map up here in Wild Vale. The village that I came from, named the other villages. We came up with who lived in the village,
Yeah.
what their names were, what their role was, what the relationship of the village was to the other villages. And that's the best. That's what really makes it fun to play, because you're not playing yourself. The fun of it is reacting as someone else would, as this character would. And we spent a long time creating that character, and then we kind of kept it a secret for a little while.
Yeah.
When we started, the other PCs thought I was a ranger, like I always play, and because the character, it was new to her. She hadn't been a Lithari for that long. A Lithari is a shifter that is like an elf wolf. They can shift back and forth. It's not a werewolf, in that they always maintain a sense of who they are. But it was new to her, and she wasn't sure how that would be viewed. So I really waited a long time until we were kind of in desperate measures, I think, before it's like, okay, and I'm a wolf now. And immediately they thought, werewolf.
Yeah. It's funny, you talk about us sitting around and creating a lot of that. It's, in my previous videos, we talk about world building and all of that. And this character that you play is pretty much sort of a homebrew character. We kind of built her from the ground up. Not just her, but also her wolf form,
Yep.
Ithelwyn. I mean, we really, because we were conflicted on how to set up the wolf where it wasn't a werewolf,
Right.
but it had similarities only in like its weaknesses, because it has a weakness to silver and
Right.
wolf's bane.
Yep.
But yeah, we literally built it from the ground up, which I love as a GM and as a player. I love that interactivity where we can kind of be a sounding board off with one another. And I really, as a GM, I really try to be that with my players. And you and I really kind of hit it off with this character pretty quickly because we were both really excited about it.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about how she became a Lithari. Because we have a character in the campaign named Lycus.
Yes.
And let's talk about your relationship to this character.
Okay. You start off coming up with a backstory. Nobody, just like in theater, which we're both involved in, nobody is born the instant they walk out there. There's a whole history to this character. And she was basically hunting. The Vale of Shadows up here on the map is an area that very few people ever enter and not too many people ever come out of. And there was always myths about wolf people that lived in there, but no one had ever really seen one. Well, while out hunting one day, she was attacked by a wolf who turned out to be Lycus. And basically he told her, when I need you, I'll come find you. And didn't tell her anything. She didn't understand what was happening, which made it a lot of fun. I think it turns out that the gods had, interfered with his life too. And but yeah, that's Lycus. I finally did track him down and meet him, and now I don't know where he is. He might be dead because you left us hanging.
Yeah. I've talked also, everyone that's kind of watched the videos knows that this is a temporal campaign. And one of the very, if not the very first temporal trip we took was back on your timeline. Is that right?
Yes, it was. Yes, I saw myself as a baby, actually.
That's right. We went back to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that's okay. We went back on your timeline to your village and met all of the villagers actually that you created or that we kind of came up with on our little chart. And yes, and you met yourself as a baby and you met your brother as well. But you also met
Lycus.
Yes.
Didn't get to talk to him because we pulled us away before I got to confront him at that point. But Yeah, you've taken all of our histories that we've created and given you, and they keep cycling back and reoccurring. And I've met 4 different people with the same last name, and 2 of them I know who they are, and the other 2 I'm not sure what that relationship is to the other 2 yet. So it's just it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
And so when you came back to the present, and in our present campaign where we're in the present, you guys as a party were in Arcadia, where you met Reimer.
Yes.
By chance, actually. It wasn't planned. I actually, the funny thing is he wasn't actually supposed to meet you there, but he did. So let's talk a little bit about that sort of relationship.
We did, and he was the first other than Lycus who I met in a different timeline again, and in the midst of a battle. And I basically had maybe 5 minutes for him to say, "Hey, yeah, well, the gods told me to do that, and I will see you around." It was gone. Whereas when I met Reimer, I didn't recognize him as a Lithari because he has the ability to mask that. And because I didn't go through the whole ritual and get that training, I couldn't do that. But he recognized me as a Lithari, and once he identified himself, this was someone that, oh my God, there's another one I can ask questions. And they did. They kind of hit it off, and they take many moonlight runs through the through the forest. But it's very chaotic. There's a whole chaotic side. I'm sorry, Bentley. There's a very chaotic side to the character, because there's the elf side and a beast side. So I think that their friendship, relationship, whatever that turns into, is going to be very tumultuous. If he's alive.
Yeah, that's true, because you guys don't know.
I was gonna say, we were building the character. We went to and it's what makes it. I encourage every PC to do that, to go through and figure it out. We thought about what would her education be like in this little remote backwood. There's no formal education. She didn't know how to read, didn't know how to write, didn't understand money because everything is a barter system. And that made it so flavorful. The first time De Luna's in a city and goes into a store to buy something, it's like she just literally pulled out a bunch of gold and said, "Is this enough?" I don't know what to do.
I remember that. That's right. I remember that.
That kind of stuff really makes it fun. It makes that character, alive. It gives it a rich background to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you didn't really, speaking of that, it wasn't until a more recent event that you were able to learn to read.
Yes, that was a spell. My brother left a spell and then now I'm like, everywhere I go, I'm like looking for books, and not always the right kind of book, but I happened to come across a romance novel, I believe.
Yeah. You read some history books and some folklore books, and I think you've just about bought a book everywhere you've gone, right? Didn't you?
Yep.
I don't know. Well, did you buy one in Arcadia? I couldn't remember if you did or not. But I know you did in the previous towns.
But yeah, that's fun. All those little details make the character come alive.
And as a GM, I will say this to the PC folks, the player characters, is that the more backstory you have and the more detail you can get, and then this is just coming from me personally, it gives me more to play with. And mainly because you and I worked on your character together, I tend to have more to play with your character than I do, say, the other 3. But I think it's important that the PCs, the actual players, when they're creating their characters, is to get as detailed as they can, because like with your education, and there came a point in this campaign where you had to be able to read. So as a GM, I had to take that and create a solution for it. And so I did. I actually homebrewed a spell for her, Jay Luna's brother Kieran, to give to her so that she could basically read. So the detail, it's, they always say the devil's in the details, and it really is true. The more detailed you can be, the better it is for the GM, because they have more to like sort of build on, or to, I say build on, but to really kind of, exploit, really. But there are those characters out there that are very much like very vague, and they're vague intentionally, and they're basically go, oh, here, you can fill it in. And that's cool. But I'm not really one of those people that likes to do that, because, being a theater person, being a director and an actor, I don't like creating other people's backstories for them.
Yeah. I agree. It gives you, when you do your own, it gives you some ownership. And having created the character that detailed, and then been a part of the world building of this area, it's like we're just telling this, we've got this rich environment to tell a story in, and it's almost like we're writing a book as we go. You've given us the basic plot lines, but we're filling in all the fun stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's, I'm very much about players having control. I mean, a lot of GMs like to, guide their character, or push their players where they want them to go. And I'm not about that, actually. I'm very much about letting you guys make the choices, and then I'll fill in as we go ahead. A lot of times, and a lot of the times we've been playing, I've had to think on the fly pretty quickly, because you guys are very unexpected sometimes. Sometimes I don't know where you guys are going to go.
Yeah, we have one that's just totally a wild card. If she thinks that she's going to say it, and we have probably the PCs have gotten into more fights because she's insulted someone. It's like, okay, here we go again. I love her.
That. One of the big moments that and it's recent, that kind of underlines this whole, players doing whatever the hell they want, is when you guys were in Arcadia and you guys got this amazing house. They gave you guys this incredible house. And the very first thing you guys, for the most part, did was leave through a secret passageway in the basement, in the wine cellar. And which I thought was, so I was like, well, crap. So, okay, so what am I going to do? Okay, well, I'm going to make it a maze down there, and I'm going to throw some monsters, and I had to, a lot of that was truly on the fly.
Yep.
You guys didn't, I didn't expect you guys to do that. I thought you guys were going to hang around the house for a little while. So I had a whole other thing planned. And then Rohir was the one. He's like, let's get out of here. Let's go. There's a secret passageway in the cellar. We're going to go there. And I was like, okay. So what can we do now? So, yeah. So, but you guys are great. I love you guys, because you do what your characters are supposed to do. You base everything based on what would my character do. And then I'll create a situation around whatever you guys choose. Now there are some, and then in even the clues that I need you to find, I will find a way to work them into something new so that you will find those clues.
Yeah, we'll walk right by something we're supposed to notice, or it's like, yeah, he didn't even notice that that last name was the same as someone else you ran into. we missed stuff.
Oh yeah. So the party consists of you, the elf Lethari, and then we have Osric and Rohir, two dwarven brothers. We also we have three dwarves actually in the cast here. We have another one named Baril, who sort of has attached himself to you guys. He just came. He kind of came out of nowhere. I think y'all met him at a pub.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the Lofty Unicorn. Y'all met him at the Lofty Unicorn. he and Osric met him, I think is what it was, and they buddied up, and
Right.
and now he's been following you guys around everywhere. Who knows why?
And we think he's supposed to, because I was it my character when I went to the past first. I met someone and they said the 5 of you are very important.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and then I'm like, wait, 5? There's 4 of us. Make 5.
Where's this number 5?
Yes.
It could be, yeah. Very, yeah. And then of course you have Arson, who I spoke about in a previous video about her transformation, and I'm going to have another one of these interviews with the player that plays that character, but she went from a fire genasi, I think sorcerer, was it? I think it was a sorcerer,
I believe,
or warlock, one of the two. It was one of the two, a spellcaster of some kind, and then she, because the past got changed, she became a blood hunter, which has thrown a whole new dynamic into the group.
It has. I want to hear her interview just to hear her thoughts on having to completely,
I know,
if your
right?
entire background change, that changes your whole personality. To me, that was fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so speaking of dynamic, so let's talk about Jade Luna's dynamic with the rest of the group. What is her dynamic with these guys? I mean, it's like, other than the given circumstances of, the gods saying you have to stick together, you have to fight together, whatever, what keeps her here?
It's weird. I was thinking about this the other day when I watched one of your other ones where you were talking about Rogier, the cleric, how his character has changed through this experience from being kind of benevolent and introspective to being really a lot more cynical and bitter, it appears to me.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking about how has my character changed? And I think she's found people that she trusts. She really left her village when she became a Lithari because she didn't know if she could control this other side, and really isolated herself and wasn't sure what other people were going to think. And then she's, picked up and thrown into this, and we literally have a ring that's embedded inside of us somehow that will not allow us to pass a certain distance from each other, or we will take damage. So we don't have a choice. And at the beginning, I think that kept us together. Now I think our experience have. I think it's actually made Jade Luna a lot more freer because, she's really a cleric character. She confides in him and trusts him and asks him questions about a lot of things.
Right.
The character of Arson, this is another woman. I mean, that we're out here on the road. There's just a bond there. I think we would have one anyway, but just by nature of that. And then Osric is kind of like the big brother. I mean, she has a brother she's very fond of, but he's very much maybe the crazy uncle.
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
Yeah, she's the one that she kind of I think she gets frustrated with his character because he's very much, we need to do this, and he doesn't. She's like, but hey.
Yeah.
But they have each other's backs. I like it.
Absolutely.
It's grown to be kind of a little family, as it should be.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah. The one of the other things is the evolution of Jade Luna has been interesting to watch. And again, I'm a little closer to this character only because you and I kind of collaborated on her a little bit here and there, but it is interesting to see how different she is now compared to when we first met her. She was extremely naive to the world. She was extremely I would consider her very young.
Yes. Yes.
Very young. And now you look at her and she's like leading the charge.
Sometimes.
She's like, hey, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to kill this dude. I mean, she's, it's like, I mean, she really is. I mean, I think it's really interesting to see her evolution. Or it was really cool to watch her evolution. And Jay Luna's had probably more experiences temporally than the others have, because I think you've had one or two extra
Yes.
moments where you've met more people from your timeline, future, past, whichever. Um, but I mean, which I think has forced her, I guess, to grow up. And I hate to say grow up, but mature is a bad word too. But you've just sort of seen this sort of. I think she's become very much like leadership material. I think she could lead this group if she wanted to.
Wow.
I mean, I really believe that. I mean, the way she's become into sort of, she's grown into her Lithari self. She's grown to embrace it as opposed to fear it. And then of course the gods did give you the Lithari ring, but which allows you to shift in and out. But I think it's still, and I think with that little bit of help, I think maybe made her more attuned to the wolf side of her.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's going to come with experience too. When we first met Jade Luna, this was all new to her.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand it all. Nobody, usually there's a ritual that a Lithari will go through and a training, and she never got to do that. Hopefully one day she will, but so it was all brand new to her. And I think the more that she lives in that skin, the more comfortable she's going to get with it, and she's still discovering new things she can do. And I love it.
Right. Oh, I do too. I love it as well. And I look forward to seeing what the future brings, excuse the pun, for her. There's, the most recent encounter you guys had, which this is another one. This is another example. The most recent encounter that we had was at Eglinton Castle. When you guys arrived there, you were supposed to meet people there, and because you find out the BBEG was amassing an army, and when you guys got there, the place was in flames, in devastating flames. That the people that you were supposed to meet there, like Reimer and Lycus, they were there at one point, and then and Kieran, your brother, but then they're gone. You don't know where they are. You found Taral, who was the Asimar keeper of the castle. Found him basically burned to death, which you guys, with the cleric, brought him back. And then now you found yourselves face to face with this gigantic dark figure that basically whisked you, just basically with a wave of the hand, knocked you somewhere. And we know where we are. We know we're in Iron Hollow.
They're on that side of the map.
Yes, we're on way over here on this other side.
Yeah.
You guys ended up over here in Iron Hollow in Stonedale, which is where Rohir and Osric are from, and Baril, I believe, is from there as well. We don't know when, but we know where we are. So it's going to be interesting to see. And we had talked a little bit about this too, and I thought about this actually. We had talked about when there was the big war between the elves and the dragons,
and the
dragon wars. The dwarves would not come to the assistance of the elves.
Yeah, and they were our neighbors. Yeah.
And there was
way back long ago.
There was like millennia ago. But when you had mentioned, it's like, hey, I wonder if if we are in the past, is that animosity still there? And I don't. Maybe it is. I was thinking, well, maybe it's not necessarily something, I guess, that would be blatant, like, oh, there's an elf, let's string them up, but more like, oh, there's an elf, can you trust them?
Yeah.
That sort of suspicion, as opposed to let's throw them in a pit somewhere. But I guess that type of suspicion, I guess, I'm assuming it would still be there on your end of it, because you were probably taught well into the time you left that about the dwarves. And
yeah, we're literally the closest city to the border, so
yeah,
we probably would have had dealings.
oh yeah, probably
Trade,
so.
you know.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens this Sunday. When I unleash what's happening in that particular part of the campaign. So we'll close out this interview with any memorable moments in the campaign that you may have had, what you liked or what you would like to see. Maybe I could do a little bit better, or I'm always open, because I want you guys to have fun, and I want it to be engaging for you. So anything that I can do to help with that, please let me know.
No, I love what you're doing. One of the things you've done is, when we first were thrown together, of course, we didn't know each other, and you built this so beautifully in retrospect, looking back. We were doing this because the God said we had to. But slowly you have been introducing to all of us, I think, a hint of what's going to happen if we fail. And it's become much more, not so much we're doing this because we have to, but we're doing it because it's going to affect everything we know. I know that my village will not survive if we don't win the ultimate battle at the end. So slowly, we're not only we feel this ownership with the land that we have built and these characters we created, but now you're slowly letting us take charge of, feel some ownership in the quest we're doing, not just because we were told to, but
right,
because we have a stake in it. And it's really, in retrospect, when I was looking back, you've really introduced that so subtly and slowly. You didn't drop that in at the very beginning saying, oh, well, the odds are going to tell you that if you don't do this, this is going to happen.
Right.
It has happened so slowly that now even if they said we were released from whatever hold they have over us, I think all of us would still want to see this through. And that's great the way you've done that. So.
Oh,
I
awesome.
love it. I think my favorite's always going to be Dragon's Milk. You mentioned that the other.
Oh, yes, Dragon's Milk.
Oh my goodness! I think I was the first one to drink Dragon's Milk.
You were the very first one, and then
I was trying to remember when I was watching that. I have a vague memory of something like along the lines of the floor is lava, that I was up on a table with.
Yes, and there was a little like leprechaun guy that was
that I was hallucinating over. Dragon's Milk is a lot of fun.
Yes, Dragon Milk. Yeah, you're referring from a previous video. Is Dragon Milk is it started in a one-off that I created for you and another player, and it was just and it goes back to the whole whimsy. Is sometimes you have to have it in there, because we saw it in this campaign with Rohir trying it for the very first time, and that's when he was all stuffy and kind of holier than thou. And then he failed his constitution check, and so he started hallucinating.
Sounded like the top of a statue.
Yeah, so that's a fun one. Oh, one other thing I did want to touch on, I'm sorry, and I meant to do it earlier, is when we're talking about the temporal aspect of this, and I just want to get your take on it. Is when at one point we went to the future. I have established that if we were to put a real world time on this, I would say that the campaign itself takes place in the 1300s, which we're looking at, the sort of Gothic-y period of world history.
Right.
And you guys went 500 years into the future, and we ended up in what we would now call the Old West.
Yes. Very interesting.
So what was
and discovered that they knew of us from their history books. we think.
Right, that's right, because you read one of the history books
Yeah, and then there's the whole paradox that, I think there's always that fear of, what if I go back in time and kill my grandfather and then I'm never born? The world ceases to exist.
Yep.
But that's your problem.
Yes. Well, I have that, and and the funny thing is, in a previous video, I mentioned that as well. And with that, I have that built in to the rings. That the rings won't let you do that.
Ah,
So the ring. So if you actually tried to kill your father in the past, the ring wouldn't let you do it because it has the way of preventing paradoxes. So yeah, that's why I was in the previous video talking about the butterfly effect. Oh, if I do this in the past, what happens in the future or the present or that? But I was thinking about that yesterday, and I remembered I was like, oh no, that's built into the rings that Tempest won't let you kill your own relatives in the past.
one thing I've been waiting to happen that I really, if it has, I've missed it, is I keep thinking we're going to influence something in the past that's going to change the present.
No, so far, I mean, because I have the roll system that once you come back to the present, I roll to see if there's any changes. And there, so far, you guys have been lucky that there's been no changes.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that works.
So we'll see what happens after the Stone Hollow part of the campaign on Sunday, because with dwarves, I can only imagine crap's going to change. It's like, I really believe it's going to be like, oh Lord, what's happened? But it'll be interesting to see. But so, all right, well, thank you, Lisa, for joining me on this video.
It was fun.
It's been awesome, and I was super excited that we got to meet Jade Luna through the actual player that plays her. Because I mean, as a GM, I can sit here and talk about these characters all day, but until you talk to the actual person who is playing that character, I think that most people don't really kind of catch what that character is all about. So I thank you for joining me and sharing your insights on Jade Luna.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. So until next time, YouTube, I will see you later. Peace out. Be good to one another. And, oh, where'd you go? I gotta stop it. Where'd you go? Sorry, there it is.
I'm here. I don't know.